Hi, how are you? And thank you very much for the kind introduction. It's wonderful to be here with you today in the Irish Men's Shed. My name is Enda O'Doherty. I'm a motivational speaker. I suppose somebody said to me the other day, they said, what do you do, Enda? And I said, well, I use words to raise people up. I use words to get the most from people. And I'd love to share some of my story with you today. I'd love to be with you in person, but given COVID-19, it's not possible at the moment. But I definitely know that I can impact you today, even on the screen. So I work with a wide range of people. I work in education. I hope there aren't many Cork people watching this, but I was very lucky to work with the Waterford senior hurling team when we went straight from Division 1B to Division 1A and won the National League, and we were narrowly beaten in the All-Ireland final. I'm currently working with Leinster Rugby. I've worked with Brinks, AIB, TripAdvisor. I've worked with boxers, cage fighters, and here I am today working with the Men's Shed. I suppose people would say to me, what could they possibly have Men's Shed members, AIB, cage fighters and rugby players all got in common? Well, I suppose we all need a little bit of inspiration. And I'd love to share some of my story with you today. Maybe it will provide some inspiration for you. So I suppose the question I want to ask you is this. If you can see out your window right now, if you can see the clouds, my question for you is, how did I end up 3 days walk? Yes, 3 days walk above the clouds with a washing machine on my back. It's an amazing story, and I'm really honored to be able to share it with you here today. So I suppose to go right back, in life, we all need a powerful why. This is probably my why. This is my muse. This is my beautiful wife, Maeve. We're together 35 years, and she's physically beautiful, but she's also a beautiful person on the inside. We've been really blessed because we've been blessed with three beautiful children. That's Clodagh on the right-hand side, Oisín in the middle, and then that's my favorite child, Fionn. And if you're laughing when I said that, it's, well, I love them all equally. We tell our kids that, but I suppose the truth is I have a wheel of love. And as they cause me less stress and less money, they rise up the wheel of love. And as they cause me more money and more stress, they drop back down the wheel of love. But I love them all equally, I suppose. They're great kids. They're fantastic kids. I suppose I'd love to share with you today two of my key beliefs. My first belief is this: I truly believe that anything is possible. Now, outside physical limits, like for example, the shed that you're in right now or wherever you're watching this, if you climb up on top of the roof and say to yourself, I totally believe I can fly, and you jump off the roof, you and I both know you will not fly. But outside physical limits, I think, yeah, anything is possible. The second belief I'd love to share with you is this: I think that most of us in life will agree that our greatest enemy is ourselves. The fellow that you see in the mirror each morning, that's the person who's most likely to stop you achieving what you want to achieve. How many times have you told yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm not funny enough, I'm not fast enough, I'm too old, I don't have enough money? We tell ourselves a million negative things in life. And eventually we start to believe those things. So if I stop the presentation now, I'd love you to take away one thing, and it's this: be positive, believe in yourself, because it does make the biggest difference in life. I suppose this photograph pretty much sums up where I was in life for a long time. Now, I tell people I'm an alcoholic. It does not make me in any way unique, particularly not in Ireland. But alcohol surrounded every piece of my life. Like, for example, if I was going to see a rugby match in Lansdowne Road on a Saturday at 3 o'clock, I'd have to be in Dublin maybe by about Thursday to get a good run at the day. I suppose alcohol is everywhere. I was very unlucky, I suppose, from an Irish point of view, to be born in Ireland. I love being Irish, but alcohol permeates every bit of our life. You know, we wet the baby's head when the baby's born. The baby's 18, we bring you for your first pint. Baby's 21, we'll have a right party. First communion, we put the kids in the garden and we put up the bouncy castle and we drink tons of Prosecco. Confirmation, we do it again. We lose the county final, feck it, we'll have a few pints. We win the county final, we'll fill the cup, and on and on. And I suppose, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of alcohol. I think it's great. But I think for me, it meant disaster. When I tell you that I was drinking a lot of alcohol, I suppose it's really incredible when I look back now to think that I was drinking about 4 bottles of whiskey a week. I had a couple of bottles of wine a week. My Friday night drink was nearly always a pint glass of vodka. And on top of that, I'd often have a bottle of cough syrup because it got to a point where a pint glass of vodka wasn't doing anything with me. I drank so much wine. I remember coming back from Rosslare once on our summer holidays, and I said to my wife, do you know what? I said, if we crash the car, the kids won't die in the car crash. They'll be drowned. There were that many bottles in the car. But life merrily, I suppose, rolled along. And for me, my mental health problems and my difficulties really only started when I stopped drinking. Much like this guy in the photograph here, he's about to get a very sticky, unpleasant surprise. And that's what I got when I stopped drinking, because like a lot of people, I was unaware that I was medicating myself with alcohol. Alcohol for me, I suppose, it was my sleeping tablet. It was my antidepressant. I depended on it totally. And once I took it away, I suddenly realized that I had a lot of problems. So I suffered from panic attacks. I suffered from sleep deprivation. Um, I sometimes used to sit in the bathroom at 3 or 4 in the morning, waiting for the dawn to come, because when the sunlight came up, I could switch off. I could stop the pain, stop the nightmares. I could dress up, go to work, suited and booted with a big smile on my face, and nobody would know the truth that I was dying slowly. It was a terrible time. Not to have sleep, I think, is a crucial thing for our happiness. And I really struggled with that. I should have told more people how I was feeling, but I didn't. I didn't attempt suicide, but I certainly thought about taking my own life. I thought about stepping into traffic multiple times. But I think most people who are on this call today, most people who have any knowledge of suicide, will know that taking your life doesn't cure the problem. It actually multiplies the problem by hundreds and hundreds of times. The pain and the sadness, and it just shares it or gives it to people that you would never hurt in a million years. So I'm so glad that I made the right decision and fought like hell for my life. I suppose I reached an all-time low when I was sent to the psychiatrist. And when I came out of it, and I said, never. She said, why? I said, that man has so many problems. I said, he's no sunlight, no family, no friends. I'll find a way out of this. I'll survive. And it was at that point in my life that I began to think about things that I should do to make sure that I had happiness in my life. I think the Men's Shed is the most fantastic organization to be able to talk to each other, to be able to spend time with people. I think all of us know that the diamond on the screen here is artificial. And that's because it has no imperfections. It's made by a machine. But the diamond ring, if you've ever put it on someone's finger with a bit of bling and said, I love you, that ring has value because of the imperfections in it. It was squeezed and shaped as it made its way through the surface of the earth. And I think all people, all of us, particularly people sitting around maybe watching this today, we all have a story. But be proud of your story. That story has shaped you and made you the person you are. A couple of years ago, I got a soccer team to the All-Ireland final. And in the final, we lost 5-4 on penalties. I was devastated because it was a holiday for Israel for the winners. 24 hours after, the student who missed the penalty, he was heartbroken. I pulled up at the school I was working in at the time, and down on the pitch in the distance, in the lashing rain, was the kid who had missed the penalty 24 hours earlier, practicing penalties over and over and over again. He refused to accept that he was beaten. He refused to accept that things had gone wrong. He focused all his energy on getting through, which is why, I suppose, maybe 6 weeks later, Sir Alex Ferguson signed him. That player was John O'Shea. He went on to be captain of Ireland, captain of Manchester United, a brilliant sportsman. Why? Because he focuses his energy on solutions in life, not problems. A bit like Thomas Edison and the light bulb. Everyone remembers Thomas Edison, the famous scientist, the famous inventor. Very few people know that thousands and thousands of times his invention did not work. Yet Thomas persisted until he got the light bulb to work. Exercise is great for my mental health. And I promised myself once I got fit, once I got free from alcohol, I'd get as fit as I possibly could. And I went and did an event called Ironman UK. Now, Ironman, if you don't know, is a triathlon for crazy people. So the swim is 4 kilometers long, or about 200 lengths of your swimming pool. The cycle is 180 kilometers, say Cork to Dublin on a bike. And straight after that, you run 44 kilometers. I did my first one in the UK. Can I tell you, at the start of the race, somebody pushed against me and I pushed back. It was a very surreal experience. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. I was singing God Save the Queen in a collapsed coal mine outside Bolton, ready to start this race. This man pushed and I pushed back a little bit and he nudged me a bit more. And I was about to turn around and say to this guy, listen, I'm from Wicklow, don't push me. And when I turned around, standing behind me was a soldier who had come back from Afghanistan. He'd lost both his legs in an explosion. And here he was competing in the same race as me. I only passed that man twice, when he sat down to rebandage the stumps on his legs because his legs were bleeding so bad on the race. What an incredible man. Funny thing is, a few minutes before, I felt sorry for myself because my knees were a bit creaky and my hamstrings were a bit tight. He had no hamstrings. He had no knees. yet he found a way to finish that race. I think for all of us in life, the finish line, celebrating, sometimes is fantastic. I gave great advice to a friend once. He said he was going to this race, and I said, when you get to the finish line, remember it's not a finish line unless you have people there to celebrate with you, friends, family. That photograph you can see beside me here is me celebrating on the finish line.
This has been the Ironman Cork, Sweden, and you are an Ironman.
I suppose Ironman's slogan, their logo, is anything is possible. And it really opened in my mind the possibility that anything is possible. So I was having, she said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to raise funds for a mental health charity called Pieta House, run from Belfast to Waterford. Now, Irish women are fantastic. And I said, well, in that case, I'll carry a washing machine. And she said, go on. And I booked a hotel to set off on an epic journey. The journey involved running and walking, crawling from Belfast to Banbridge, Banbridge, Dundalk, Dundalk, Drogheda, Drogheda, Dublin, Dublin, Newbridge, Newbridge, Carlow, Carlow, Kilkenny, and Kilkenny to Waterford. 30 miles every day with a 40-kilo washing machine on my back. It was an amazing experience. I hope you haven't had your lunch yet, or I hope you're not squeamish. On that walk, the heat got to 30 degrees. Within the first 2 days, I had hallucinations and the main road turned into a snake. I began to imagine I was walking in a giant snake. I lost the fat pads at the front of my feet. All of my toenails came out. My heels came off. I had what can only be described as combustible diarrhea. And then it got hard because I broke both feet. Yet the strange thing is, the last step involved the same decision as the first step. Just keep moving forward. As bad as things get in life sometimes, we just have to keep moving. Keep concentrating on going forward. When I got to the finish line, an amazing thing happened. Thousands of people turned out to celebrate my homecoming. The Coast Guard flew a guard of honour. All of the people who said I couldn't do it and didn't believe in me were wrong. I got home with my washing machine. And I suppose this unleashed in me the belief that truly anything was possible if I had a clear goal, a clear plan, and kept making small, persistent, consistent efforts. 2 years later, I found myself getting off a bus in Tanzania at the bottom of Mount Kilimanjaro. That's right, Kilimanjaro. And I said to you at the start of the story, I said, how could I end up 3 days above the clouds with a washing machine on my back? Well, persistent, consistent effort.
Good morning, Enda. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning. We're a little bit nervous. I was just saying to my friend Mark outside that when I hear people on radio stations doing that introduction, I always think that guy's a bit crazy, you know. and then it sort of dawns on me, it's me, it's my life. Yeah, I'm carrying a washing machine to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. We're leaving next Monday, and I suppose we're fundamentally doing it to raise funds for Pieta House.
Didn't think we'd get this far, but we did. We will get Pieta House open in Waterford City with people power. I remember standing here thinking, what the hell am I doing with this washing machine? And 1 year later, we made it back from Belfast to Waterford. It looks like we've been hardcore camping for hiking for how long? About 6 days, but truth is, it's about 20 minutes in.
Outside in the office, they can be carrying a huge load and it's invisible and you don't see it. So I suppose it's two goals really, is to get people to ask for help and also to remind people to look out for a hidden load that your friends or family might be carrying.
Over an 8-day period, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro carrying a washing machine. I suppose the key question you probably ask is, why a washing machine, Enda? What were you doing? Well, I think it's a great life lesson. It's a great mental health message. And I think it's a message that ties in beautifully with Men's Shed. This week in Ireland, 8 young people, mostly young people, would take their own lives and die by suicide. And the reason they're dying, the reason they struggled, was because they didn't share the load. They didn't share their problems and ask for help. They didn't communicate with friends. My simple mental health message with the washing machine was, share the load. Don't carry something stupid around. And I think anyone watching this will agree that I truly did carry something stupid, but for the right reasons. I think so many times in life we can be squeezed. So many times in life we can be under pressure. I think it's easy sometimes to focus on the problems, not to focus on solutions. I remember my old English teacher, a very eccentric man. I think it's almost compulsory for our English teachers to be eccentric. But I remember he came to my English class one day and he said, "Boys, I require your copies by 4 p.m. He walked out of the room, then rapidly popped his head around the door and said, "You are masters of your own destiny." It frightened the life out of me. But what he said stuck with me for a lifetime. We truly are masters of our own life. When we reach our deathbed and we sit and look back at our life, we look at all the brilliant things that happened to us, all the great memories. We should remember, or we will clearly see, that we were part of each of those great adventures. Equally so, when we look at the hard and difficult things that are happening in our life, we can look back and we too will know that the bad times always involved us as well. Think about our actions, our financial, our health, our relationships. So many things happen in life that we are in charge of, that we can change for the better. I was flying to Vienna in the early 80s. I was sitting beside this man one time, and I saw the skin in his arm was sort of crumpled and a bit distorted. And making small talk, I said, "Did you fall? Did you hurt your arm?" This man told me the most amazing story. He said to me, "Enda, I'm going back to Vienna. I'm going back to Austria for the first time since World War II. He had been a Holocaust survivor who had survived Auschwitz. And himself and his wife had met in the camp. And the scar on his arm was, he explained, the day the Russians liberated the camp, he took a sharp knife and he cut the SS number from his arm. He said, they branded me as an object, as a piece of meat, but I'm a person. I'd rather my scar than their number of hate," he told me. I was amazed. He told me about his journey to America, how he'd married his wife. He'd set up multiple businesses and been a successful businessman. And here he was at the end of his days going back to visit his own home village. I was amazed. I said, how can you possibly be so positive? And basically he told me exactly what my English teacher had said. He explained that he was a master of his own destiny. He chose happiness. He chose a positive life, not the life that they wanted for him. You know, sometimes people will say to me, they say, "Enda, how is it possible that you can carry a washing machine for 9 marathons in 8 days?" Well, I suppose the simple fact is simple, persistent, consistent effort. Let me share a secret with you. To this day, every time I go to the bathroom, I do 10 push-ups. Every time I wash my hands, I do 10 push-ups. That means in an average year, I do over 30,000 push-ups. At no stage is 10 difficult, but the accumulative effect is fantastic. Think of something you'd like to change in your life. Make a small effort. Make that effort regularly, and you too will see a huge difference. We should never underestimate the power of our brain. Doctors and scientists will tell us that if someone has a heart attack, the amazing thing is the people who have a positive mindset live on average 8 years longer than people who have negative. So if you have a heart attack and you think, "Oh my God, I'm bunched," yes, you are. And if you have a heart attack and say, "This is the start of my new life," you're also correct. It's just down to brain power, the power of our brain. It's a bit like, you know, elephants in India or Malaysia. When tourists go on holidays and they see this giant elephant, they often ask the mahout, you know, the Indian trainer, they'll say, "Why is it possible that such a huge elephant is held in place by such a tiny stake and tiny piece of rope?" The mahout explains to the tourists that when the elephant was small, that stake, that rope was enough to hold the elephant in place. And while the elephant grew physically in size, its mindset didn't. We all age, we all change. But what we must be sure to change is our mindset. Can we keep learning? Can we keep changing? Can we learn new skills? Can we learn new ideas? Here's a simple takeaway for you today. So last Christmas, my first book came out. It's called I'm Fine. It's available plug on endao'doherty.ie. But when I wrote that book, I remember having a lot of negative thoughts. I'm dyslexic. I can't spell. I won't finish it. I won't get a publisher. Nobody will buy it. Every single time I had a negative thought, I sat at my laptop and I typed for 10 minutes. The more negative thoughts I had, the more of the book I got finished. When I didn't have negative thoughts, I made progress as well. I suppose it's like making a coin with heads on both sides. I toss it, heads I win, heads I win. You can't go wrong. So if you're having a negative thought about something, maybe try and match that negative thought with a positive action. The man on the screen beside me is amazing. This man is a real inspiration to me. His name is Peter Fruscian. You'll probably go and Google him when we finished. Peter was an Arctic explorer, and while out on an expedition, he got caught in an avalanche. Incredibly, he got spun around and survived in his tiny air capsule. He tried digging his way back to the surface. He was unable to because the snow and ice were so firm. And I apologize for this story. It's a little bit rude, but it's 100% true. Peter opened his trousers and he defecated into his hand. He took the excrement, made it into a spike, and dug his way back to the surface. Incredible start to a story. That's right, I said a start. You see, when he got to the surface, no one was there. No one believed in him. He crawled back to base camp, and all the way back, he realized he was dying from frostbite. He took off his shoes and socks. All of his toes were black. He immediately took out a pliers and removed all of his toes, surviving this amazing trial. But here's the crazy thing. It's the start of Peter's story. You see, Peter was a Jewish man. He lived in Denmark. And when the Nazis invaded, he said, I know a bully when I see one. I'm going to do something about it. He formed the resistance and successfully fought against the Nazis. He wrote 30 books. He was in 40 films. He won the first Oscar for a film, not film in the English language. And when you think it can't get any weirder, he went to America and he won the original version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. What an amazing man. Now, what I love about Peter is this. Much like us, he faced many obstacles in his life, but every single time he was determined to invest energy in solutions, not just in the problems. I suppose we'll have to have gender equality. This beautiful lady is Linda Hamilton, an amazing woman, a model, professional surfer. She had been just offered a professional contract by O'Neill's as a surfer. And one Sunday afternoon, just before the contract started, she went for lunch with her dad and her sister, followed by a surf in their local bay. She was attacked by a great white shark. Now, I don't know if you've seen great white sharks up close, but it's incredible. Their teeth are serrated and pointed, designed for slicing flesh. The great shark attacked her, took a chunk from her board, and took her entire left arm. Now, the amazing thing is, within 7 weeks, she went back to the same bay and she learned to surf with one arm. 1 year later, she went on to win the US Open Professional Surf Championships. What an amazing woman. She worked for the United Nations as an ambassador for people with disabilities. She refused plastic surgery because she said, this is me. Simply put, this is me, accept me. What an amazing, inspirational woman. Much like our friend with the poopsicle. She focused on solutions in life. A can-do attitude means you very often will do. Beside me is a number on the screen. This number is 28,000. I wonder how many people know what it is. Well, 28,000 is the average number of days that somebody in Ireland lives. You might live considerably longer and be lucky. You might live considerably less and be very unlucky, but it's in around that number. You see, the thing is, you could die in the next 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thankfully, you didn't. It's funny, when I count that down in an auditorium at a live show, it's amazing how many people look around to see who's going to die, because we always assume it won't be us. But I think anybody knows that at some stage in all of our lives, that countdown will happen. And at that point, we're too late to take action. We're too late to do the things we want to do in life. We're too late to tell people who we love that we love them, to go on adventures we should have gone, to take on new challenges, to make new friends, to meet new people. I suppose a lot of that sounds like the men's shed, doesn't it? I'd like to finish today with a really, really powerful story. I'm sure you can remember when I told you we got back to Waterford after the Belfast to Waterford walk. And this small, tiny, I suppose, little lady came over to me at the end of the walk and she said, Enda, do you mind if I take a photograph, a selfie of you with your washing machine? I gave my wife her phone and picked this lady up and put her sitting on my washing machine. We took a photograph. She smiled and said, thank you. And as we parted, she said, have you got a minute? And I said, of course I have. She said, there's something I want to tell you. She said, I didn't come for a photograph. She said, at the start of your walk, when you were going through hell, do you remember your feet were in pain and your nails came out? I said, yeah, I can remember. She said, I was struggling too. She said, I wrote a note to my husband and to my children saying goodbye because I couldn't live anymore. She said, I took every piece of medication I could find in the house, decided to write a note, a suicide note, to my husband and my kids. And she said, at the last minute, something clicked in my brain. And she thought, you were fighting like hell. You kept going. You were showing resilience. Maybe I should hold on. She said the next day she told her husband how she felt. She went to the GP, she got some medication, and she started counselling. And here she was, 8 or 9 days later, on the finish line to greet me with my washing machine. She said, I didn't come for a photograph. She said, I came to thank you for saving my life. Now, I've never been struck by lightning, but I'm very, very sure I know what it feels like. What an amazing experience. Sometimes people say to me, Enda, why do you keep putting your body through such hell for charities? And why do you keep so much pressure on yourself? And I'd say, well, I have 1,000 stories like that woman's story that I've heard. They provide great inspiration. I think the important thing that I'd love you to remember today is this, that you're truly unique. Your life is precious. We are all here for a short time. It's best to be positive, best to smile, get the maximum we can out of it. I sincerely want to thank Men's Shed for letting me speak today. I hope you really enjoyed my presentation. Thank you so much. If you'd like to find out more about my ideas, you can find me on endaodoherty.ie. I have a podcast out called the Mighty Mini Podcast. And as I say, my book is called I'm Fine, available on my website. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.